Hey, Jason, it's Kristen Z.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Can you pronounce your last name for me?
Sure, it's Calacanis.
Got it.
Calacanis. It's three A's.
Calacanis. Okay, great.
You got it.
I'll see you in 10 seconds.
Okay.
Building a better Bay Area for a safe and secure future. This is ABC 7 News.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Z. Welcome to our daily program called Getting Answers. We're asking experts your question every day at 3 to get answers for you in real time. Today is for all you parents out there. We'll talk about the mental health challenges for college students with distance learning and for high schoolers. And a group of Stanford students is helping high school students stuck at home. But first, we begin with Bay Area angel investor and microschool advocate Jason Calacanis. So Jason fired up social media with this tweet on Sunday. Looking for the best 4th through 6th grade teacher in the Bay Area who wants a 1-year contract that will beat whatever they're getting paid to teach 2 to 7 students in my backyard. If you know this teacher, refer them and we hire them, I will give you a $2,000 Uber Eats gift card. That's a nice little referral fee there. Jason made early investments in companies like Uber and the stock trading app Robinhood. Jason, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, and I think it's a great discussion, an important discussion. I hope everybody out there is safe and everybody's family is safe. I know this is a very challenging time for all of us.
It is an important decision, conversation. Many families are considering it to different degrees. Now, of course, you raised a lot of eyebrows. Some say good for you, but others say you are widening the privilege gap or flaunting your wealth. Now, one response on Twitter here, I'll read to you. Everything that's wrong with the Bay Area all wrapped up in a nice little tweet. Jason, what's your response to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you have to understand Twitter is its own unique universe. But I was very clear in my tweet that, number one, we're in public school and we intend to come back to public school. Just public school is not open. And then for our family, and we have kids who are in elementary school, distance learning did not work. Number three, I don't believe schools are going to reopen. I think what will happen, sadly, is exactly what happened with Major League Baseball or many other situations with groups is we're going to have an outbreak, and I don't think teachers are going to want to risk going to classrooms. So if that sounds reasonable, and I think it's pretty reasonable to you, yes, that's the likely scenario.
I mean, that's where we're headed, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if that's where we're headed,
yep.
Then on the class issue, I was also very clear to say, hey, I understand that this is a privilege I have. I'm a product of the public school system in Brooklyn. I understand that I hit a couple of home runs as an angel investor. I understand the level of privilege I have. I'm not an idiot. We're going to give the other slots in the school away for free based on need. So in all likelihood, I think it's going to be 4, 5, 6 students in the backyard for a couple of hours a day. We'll be using, in all likelihood, the curriculum from our public school. We will be not taking a public school teacher because 95% of the applications coming in are from the tens of millions of Americans who are out of work right now because of the pandemic.
Wait, Jason, how many applications have you gotten so far after you put this tweet out?
Well, I haven't checked today, and I literally have somebody doing this for me, but it was dozens as of yesterday, and I'm talking about qualified, and well over 90% at that point in time were people who are out of work. So this is going to, in an almost certainty, be a net new job created. We're not trying to steal a public school teacher and have 23 other kids suffer, obviously. We're going to give away the majority of the spots for free. If somebody wants to contribute, and they have the means, that's fine. I understand. I got lucky and I can afford to do this. But this has been going on for a long time before Jason Calacanis came up with the idea. So I think people are giving me credit for it and they're giving me a hard time for it because, let's face it, it's easy to hate somebody like me who is a rich tech guy. But the truth is, it's going to be a net new job for society. The majority of the seats in the school will be free based on merit. And when I say merit, not like SAT scores I'm talking married as in you don't have the money to pay for this.
I gotcha.
And what I would,
Wait, so how many of the 7 kids, up to 7 kids, are your kids?
in all likelihood, it would be one of our kids,
Okay.
but possibly all 3.
Got it. So several of the kids would be scholarship funded. They can pay or not pay depending on what their need is. You're going to hire a teacher who's not currently working at another school, a school district, to take them away from that classroom. And you're going to pay taxes, and this comes with benefits, all that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm an investor in over 200 companies, and hiring somebody and giving them benefits. There are tons of online services like Gusto or any number of TriNet. There's just a bunch of these services where you can just fill out a form and it does the taxes. We can give them health benefits. And the reason I specifically put a 1-year contract is because based on my knowledge of education, and I'm an investor in a couple of educational companies, and I'm actually on the board of a private school in Brooklyn. Teachers get paid on a year-long contract, and then that contract either gets renewed or not. And they usually make that decision in February or March. So most people are already locked in. So the people who we're talking to are people who are net new teachers or people coming out of retirement for this position. And of course, listen, we'll pay whatever the best rate that person could get, and maybe even a little more. We'll give them benefits and days off. And we're all in this together. And if you can't afford this, I think you have to pause for a second, because I've been contacted by many people, and they said this is elitist, and that couldn't be further than the truth. What one family explained to me they're doing is they hired a college student for 15 or 20 bucks an hour. And I think they started at 15, and they might be giving her a raise to 20 because she's done a good job. And they actually started this during the spring when the pandemic and distance learning started. They had 5 or 6 kids come to one person's house, which brings your pod size and your exposure down. Most schools have 300 or 400 students in pods of 20 or 30. So this really narrows that contagion issue, an outbreak issue. They're doing it in their houses, so you have no cost. There's no incremental cost for the space. Another family told me they're using their office space, which is empty, because the companies are not using them. So what an amazing opportunity for companies to offer this to families, that they could come in and use conference rooms in their spaces. Add to that $15 an hour for 6 hours a day is $75. If you put 7 students in there with a college student and do the distance learning, it's an incremental $10 to $15 a day per student.
Okay, I'm glad you're doing the calculation for me, because I'm glad, Jason, you're doing the calculation for me, because my math mind doesn't work that quickly. But I get what you're saying. I
do it for a living. I'm an angel investor.
But you're saying this is doable for a lot of people and not necessarily reserved for the super rich. I get your point there. Do you have any concerns, though, about liability? Like, what if somebody in your learning pod gets sick, right? And then what if it becomes a hotspot?
Listen, we're all going through that exact issue in America, in every aspect of American life, whether it's going for pizza or ice cream or taking public transit. I think there'll be some federal laws that will, if you're doing the guidelines, you will not be liable, and we can have everybody sign a waiver. So it's a valid question, but I mean, we're sitting here in America and people are not wearing masks and going to bars and going to choirs and doing everything we're told not to do. We're the only modern country in the world. I think we're actually, of all countries in the world, doing the worst job. So unless the federal government decides to get their act together and we start acting in unison, which is the only way to beat a pandemic, I think Northern California is a shining example of people doing it right, because we believe in science, and I think we care about each other, and we're not in some politicized bubble where we think wearing a mask is emasculating. So I'm rooting for the Bay Area to become the model, and I think microschools will ultimately, and this is where I think there's a lot of insincere arguments going on Twitter. There's a lot of unions that have got wind of me, and I'm slightly high. I have 300,000 followers on Twitter, so I have a little bit of a platform. A lot of the teachers unions are really targeting me, and that's why I wanted to come on the program, because I'm not trying to bust a union, nor do I have the ability to do that. But parents and Americans have the right to innovate, and they have the right to do what they think is best for their children, and more competition, in my experience, as an American, as a capitalist, as an investor in companies, and a creator of jobs, competition is good for creating better products in the world. We all know this to be true. And I think the big fear here is that parents are going to realize that a micro school might become a sustainable model post-pandemic. And then that challenges some of the unions who have a lock on education. And that's the back channel I've been getting. Some people have actually been telling me, listen, I know people in the union, they're targeting you for harassment on Twitter. They're trying to discredit you. I'm not trying to break a union. All I want to do is keep my kids safe and educate them. And we're still in public school. I could afford to go to private school. I believe in the public school system. And we're going to go back to public school after the pandemic. I just don't think anybody, including teachers and frontline workers, are going to want to expose themselves to coronavirus in large groups. And so we need to have a rational, nuanced discussion, which I appreciate you having with me today.
All right. Well, Jason, we can continue this conversation, and it looks like we should. That was very insightful and interesting, and I appreciate you putting that out there. Sounds like you're saying, hey, if you want to do this, at the cost range that you can afford, I'm happy to work with you and kind of teach you and share with you my model, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, my Twitter handle is Jason, so twitter.com/Jason, and I'm going to document everything we learn and share it with the community, of course.
All right, Jason Calacanis, great talking with you. Thanks so much, and good luck with that. Keep us posted, okay?
Thank you.
All right, take care. All right, we're going to take a short break on the air, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about mental health, specifically for students who are distance learning again. So we're going to take a short break on the air. The conversation continues on our live streams, including Facebook Live right now. All right, folks, thanks for joining us today. We have a psychiatrist coming up who has joined us before our Midday Live, Dr. Ron Holt, connecting with us to talk about how, as kids look at this possibility of maybe spending another semester, possibly the whole year, we hope not, having to do distance learning, what kind of a toll does it take on them mentally, physiologically even, and just socially. Dr. Holt, how are you? Good to see you.
Hi, Kristen. It's an honor to be with you again. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness, it's been way too long. We've been trying to get you back on for what, 2 months now? So
yeah,
it's a good day.
It is a good day.
By the way, you're on Facebook Live right now with our viewers.
Awesome.
Hey, is there something you do every day at the start just to kind of reset and start the day right and put yourself in that good energy mode?
Well, what I do is I think things that I'm grateful for. Right. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for the day. I'm grateful for housing. I just think things that I'm grateful for, and that kind of puts me in a good mood to get started. And then I do a little bit of light exercise before I shower, and that helps as well.
Did you say shower?
Yeah.
All right. Such a simple thing, right? But you're right. And I think routines also help too, right? Just like a nice routine.
There's no question. Even if you have nothing to look forward to that day, if you just get up and do your normal routine, exercise, shave, shower, it just kind of puts us back into kind of calms our brains and allows us to kind of mental health wise and refocus and be ready for the day.
All right. Hey, Facebook friends, if you have any mental health related questions for Dr. Holt, please go ahead and put them up on Facebook Live right now. I'll try to get some of them answered during the next 8 minutes, I think, that we have to talk. Let me check in with the producer. How many minutes do we have? 7 minutes? Okay. So post your questions now, folks, and we're coming back on air in 2 seconds. Welcome back. Mental health in this pandemic is a top priority, but how do you cope, especially as a college student or high school student? Joining me to talk more about this is San Francisco psychiatrist Dr. Ron Holt. Dr. Holt, most Bay Area schools, except for elementary schools that might apply for those waivers to open in person, will do distance learning to start. So kids, of course, did this in the spring, and some have gotten a glimpse into that experience on their mental health. What do you see there? What is so challenging for them during this time with regard to their mental health?
Well, that's a great question. And if you think about it, when we're normally in classroom, we have face-to-face physical interactions with others. We're able to see our teachers in person. For a lot of them, too, they're able to get access to maybe some health care or some counseling through their school counselors. And also for some of them, especially if they're in college, they had access to food and shelter. And now all that's been kind of taken away because of this pandemic. And so when we're doing stuff remotely now, that's making things a lot harder for people. So when you take all the things that we just talked about and add that with isolation that we've done for several months, that definitely puts kids and students at higher risk for mental health issues, including depression and anxiety.
All right, so given that you think anxiety, depression might be more possible or likely, what can students do to fight that? And then, tell us about that. And then I also want to go into what parents can do to support them.
That's a great question. Okay. And so here's my thought is that for a lot of us, if we're feeling like stressed right now, it's just reaching out to others. And that could be your best friends, or it could be people in your classroom outside of Zoom, and either doing a phone call with them or just chatting or doing texting with them. So something to kind of make a person realize that they're not alone, because there's always safety in numbers. So I think reaching out would be helpful. I think also just doing some deep breathing too. Like when we're feeling really stressed, we kind of have our amygdala part of our brain, that's our fear center, that really kind of gets worked up. And so sometimes just doing some deep breathing, closing our eyes and doing some deep breathing allows us to come back to the prefrontal cortex and allows us to think through things more clearly as well. Also, I think is also very important is practice journaling. I mean, a lot of times now we have a lot of negative thinking. And so if we're able to take those negative thoughts and write them down, that kind of gives our brain permission to let them go and put them away. And then that allows us the opportunity to have more positive thinking coming in as well. And one of my favorites too is also reframing our thoughts. It's so easy for us to say, oh my gosh, I can't go to school. I'm stuck here. I'm on Zoom. I can't really do the things that I want to do. And we have to reframe that. And we have to tell ourselves, I feel grateful that I'm able to stay at home, because then that means that it keeps me safe and it keeps my family safe from getting COVID. And so it all depends on the way that we structure our feelings. And so if we take away our negative feelings and reframe them in more positive thinking, then it makes us feel better about what our current circumstances are.
Talking to your kids is very challenging, especially if they're really young. Our viewer Marie has a question about how do you explain to kids why they can't hug or meet up with their friends right now in a caring way that they can understand?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And, I think what I would do is just say, I know, Johnny, this is a really hard time for you right now. We have this pandemic going on. The last time we had something like this was over 100 years ago. That was a long time ago. But that means that we're not able to be physically with our friends and family right now because we don't want to get this illness. And so I think if we just explain to them that this is a temporary thing, but it's going to keep us safe, and that eventually we will be able to connect again, I think that's going to allow them permission to understand that and realize that this is not a long-term thing. It's just temporary. And by them following through and not hugging others, that it keeps them safe, but it also keeps mom and dad safe as well.
Okay. Other than just asking your kids straight up, like, hey, are you depressed? Are you okay? Yeah. What are some other ways we can kind of dig into that and recognize some signs?
That's a great question. So here's the thing for depression. If you notice like 5 or more of the following symptoms for more than a 2-week period, then it's probably time to reach out to your kid and say, hey, I'm noticing some of these things in you. What do you think? And so things such as sleep, like changes, either sleeping too much or not sleeping enough, interest level being different or off, having issues with feeling guilt, maybe energy level being low, problems with concentration and memory, maybe changes in appetite, such as eating too much or not eating enough, and also some passive thoughts of maybe being better off not alive. And if you start to notice some of these symptoms in your student, or your kid, it's totally okay to say, Johnny, it seems like there's some changes in your behavior that I didn't really notice before. I'm kind of checking in with you and wanted to see whether you feel that this is true or not. And, they may say, well, gosh, I never thought about that, Mom or Dad, but I guess that's true. And then it's okay to say to them that, it's okay to not be okay, but, it's not okay to not seek treatment. And so if you want, I'll be happy to connect you with the school counselor and see, or your primary care provider, to see what kind of resources are available to help you get through this, because we are in this together.
All right. Well, as a parent, sometimes I wonder if I see something that I think my kid should do that would help him or her, should I just only suggest it, or should I force the issue, right? Like, how much do you push? Like, let's say I really think going for a run daily will help my son, but how far do you go, and how do you juggle that?
Well, that's a great question. And the thing is that, as you know, as a parent, that if you force your kid to do something, they're not going to do it. So you've almost got to make them think that it's somehow their idea.
Yeah, how do we do that?
So maybe just come and yeah. So for instance, like you can just say, I was just at work today and I was talking to some of my class or some of my colleagues, and they were saying that their kids are going out, and maybe you might be able to say to them, it's like, I heard that some of my colleagues' kids are like going out for walks or safely, and are feeling better about that. I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that. I mean, just kind of put it out as like, this is what I've heard. I'm wondering what you think, because then if they want to incorporate that into their lifestyle, they'll do it. And they may not do it in the moment. They may think about what you said because you're mom, and they don't want you to think that you're right.
Right.
But later on, right? But later on, like a couple days later, they might come back and say, I'm actually thinking about going for walks. It's like, oh, that's great. And so I think just planting the thoughts in their minds, right, helps a lot. And it doesn't have to be this whole barrage of lists of things all at one time, but just like on occasion each day, just like, I understand that also people that go out for runs, it seems to help them. I saw that in a news article. That sounds interesting, doesn't it? And so if you just kind of plant it in their mind for them to kind of think about, and they may not respond in the moment, but when they're ready, they will.
All right. Plant the seed, but don't force it, because I guess they need to feel like they have some control over their lives right now, especially now, right?
That's right. That's right.
Dr. Ron Holt, thank you so very much. Some great information and ideas, and I hope that will help a lot of our viewers out there watching. Take good care.
Okay. Thank
See you
you
again
so much.
Soon.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, we'll take a short break on the air, but the conversation continues on our live streams, including abc7news.com. When we come back, we'll talk about a tutoring service by Stanford students that perhaps your kids can take advantage of. All right. Hey, thanks for sticking with me today on this Wednesday. I feel like every day is kind of becoming the same, but we always get interesting guests, and Dr. Ron Holtz offers some great information just now for making sure that your kids are doing okay and how to spot the signs if they're not doing okay in terms of mental and social and emotional health. All right, we'll keep that conversation going. Our producer putting it out there, Eric, saying if you miss any of the segments, you can rewind this feed. That's right. That's the beauty of watching these Facebook Lives. You can actually go back. All right. Hi there. Our next guest is Xavier Martinez. Did I say that right?
You did.
Xavier. All right. Nice to meet you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
You're not on TV yet, but you are on Facebook Live on our live stream. So folks, Xavier is one of the Stanford students who started this new tutoring service, which we'll dive into when we come back on air. But hey, are you getting ready to go back to school? Are you guys doing all full distance learning at this point?
Currently, Stanford's plan is to bring students back in cohorts. So freshmen and sophomores are allowed back in the fall and summer quarters, and juniors and seniors are allowed back in winter and spring.
I see. So you'll get to live in the dorms, yes?
That's correct. We'll be allowed to live in the dorms. However, it seems like right now, for fall quarter, we'll be entirely online, or at least very much online in terms of our courses. Okay.
But when you're in the dorms, will you have to share, or are they all going to be singles at this point? Have you heard?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure that they're all going to be singles. And in terms of student-to-student interaction and how restrictive that is going to be, that seems to still be up in the air.
Okay. All right, we're coming back on air in just a couple minutes, so hang on. Seconds. All right, welcome back. Earlier, we talked about learning pods, microschools. Now we want to talk about students helping students. A group of Stanford University students has started a new type of tutoring service, and they want to make sure no kid is left behind, whatever their socioeconomic means. Joining us now is one of the founders of Tree Tutors, Xavier Martinez. Xavier, nice to have you with us today.
Hi, Kristen. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. You're going to be what, a sophomore at Stanford?
That's right. I'll be a sophomore at Stanford next year, and I'm really excited
That's great. So you were freshmen this spring at Stanford when you guys also had to halt all your classes and go to distance learning. So somewhere in that came the idea for Tree Tutors. Tell me about it. What is Tree Tutors?
That's right. Tree Tutors is a revolutionary new tutoring service. It was really formed in the aftermath of the COVID lockdowns. I live in Washington State, and my mom is a teacher. And I think going back, I was really surprised by the lack of immediate kind of help that there was for high school students. And a friend of mine actually called me and said, hey, we should start a tutoring service. And that ended up being the other co-founder of Tree Tutors, who's Ben Fisher, another student at Stanford. And together we kind of thought of a way to incentivize Stanford students to tutor, many of whom had lost their jobs on campus. So to provide them with some sort of income while still helping high school students to navigate, of course, that difficult terrain, as well as applying to colleges and such. And we wanted to make sure that was it.
So Xavier, talk about the price structure, because I know tutoring services can be so expensive and it's not accessible to everybody. So how does yours work, and how does it address the social equity component?
That's right. That was, of course, the number one thing that we had to take a look at before we did a single thing. We found that many tutoring services, especially particularly in large metropolitan areas, specifically in the Bay Area, can run upwards of $100 to $200 an hour. And they're really marketed as this elite thing to try to, maybe increase mobility to get to an elite university. And we wanted to make sure that was different, not necessarily that we weren't able to do that, but that we wanted to provide access to everyone and not be elitist in any way. And so, of course, with that, none of our tutoring costs more than $49 an hour per student. That cost actually goes down if you decide to do a group tutoring session, have 2, 3, 4, or 5 students on one with a Stanford student tutor.
And if you're low income, can you get it for free?
Yeah, on top of that, we are 100% committed that any student that qualifies for free and reduced lunch will receive completely free tutoring. And that's part of our initiative called our Buy Two, Give One program. So for every 2 paid sessions with a tutor, essentially what you're doing is you're providing a free hour of learning for a student from a lower socioeconomic background. And we do that just by allocating our funds in a way that makes sure that our tutors are able to be paid, and that we are able to keep some of those funds to reallocate them to pay the tutors for those free sessions.
All right, that's an interesting concept, Xavier. Congratulations and good luck to you. So if folks are interested in checking it out to see if you can match their student up with a tutor, by the way, this is all virtual, what's the website?
It's treetutors.com.
All right, and that's all the time we have. Thank you so much. Short break and be right back. All right, Xavier, are you still there? If you are, we can continue to chat.
Sounds good.
All right, great. We have 2 more minutes on Facebook Live. We're off air, but I'd like to hear. So what subjects do your tutors cover? Are they all students who study those subjects at Stanford? And how do you do the matching?
Yeah, matching is one of our most important kind of processes within that system. We make sure that we kind of look at each of those tutors and make sure that they fit the needs of that high school student or middle school student that's looking for tutoring. We make sure that they match it, whether it's in a subject that they've tutored in the past or a subject that they're studying in college, or something that they certainly have a great deal of expertise on. And we don't only look at that, we make sure that they are maybe have a similar background to that student that they'll be tutoring. We want to make sure that this isn't only a kind of a tutoring situation, but that it's also a mentorship situation. It's
so Xavier, do you guys see this as a temporary service that's useful during distance learning, or do you think even after the pandemic, there's some place for this type of tutoring service?
That's funny. That's something that we've certainly discussed in depth. And I think it's definitely something that will go on in the future. It's something that's much needed, especially for maybe more rural areas or areas where their school districts are underfunded. I know personally I come from a pretty rural area of Washington, and a service like this that could have been provided to me for free would have completely transformed, maybe my high school experience, my decision on which colleges to apply to, how to apply to colleges, and anything like that. And I know that really the sky is the limit with what we can think of with that.
All right, Xavier Martinez, a Stanford University student, one of the co-founders of Tree Tutors. It's treetutors.com, right?
That's right.
All right, good luck to you. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, and you have a great school year. See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this interactive show, Getting Answers. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye. All right. Thank you, Facebook friends. Hope you enjoyed the conversation today. 3 interesting guests. I'll see you tomorrow.